Can everyone do it? Who will do it? Who will not? Why? It's much more difficult than it seems. So yes, we're saying we have flexible working arrangements or we have a work from home policy. It's nice, but actually, what you're doing is perhaps you're making happy 20% of the company, because perhaps the remaining percentage cannot do so because they have to be on the shop floor or
Yeah.
on site. So does that make sense? Should we make the 20% happy and the remaining percentage unhappy? What are the other people going to get in inverted commas? And it's very important. So how can we balance it out? It becomes suddenly very challenging.
So I agree with the building a story. I think so. Here, buckle up. This is a very very in-depth subject. I think that one, as a business leader, like if you have your own business, you should not be scared of your people leaving you.
Yeah.
Why? Because you end up making desperate decisions to please everyone, and what happens is then you just end up in the state, right, where entitlement, you get held hostage by your top performers. Again, I'm not saying mistreat your employees, right? This is not what I'm saying.
No.
What I'm saying is that, all employees at some point have a shelf life with the company.
Yes. Yes.
So either you implement really good progression frameworks.
And there's the employee life cycle.
Yeah, there's the employee life cycle. So either you employ really good progression frameworks where your employees have always opportunities to grow, do a horizontal transition to another role, coach others, give them that level of fulfillment, because we get bored. Like human beings need novelty to keep us interested, right? Like I remember the longest I stayed in a role was my last role, which was 4 years, but before that was like a year and a half. I would always move. I would get really, really bored because I would understand what the concept, master it, and then what am I going to do? I just know what I need to do
Definitely.
now. But going back, so you mentioned telling the story. That's great. I think there are two spectrums that you need to take in consideration whenever you are making changes to your employee environment. One is the engagement aspect, so the HR aspect, so the making sure that people are happy at work, and but keep in mind as well that people are happy at work when they have a purpose, when it's fair, when it's disciplined, when there are clear set goals and rules. So as you put the bar up with employee well-being, so must the discipline aspect. And people tend to forget about that because discipline equals bad in some people's eyes. And completely, it couldn't be further from the truth. I think discipline is obviously, if done properly, if done right, discipline is an incredible catalyst for progress. Incredible. When people are disciplined, regardless if they're disciplined because they want to achieve a goal. So let's say, Dan, you are on a 20K salary, you want to get 30K. And I'm like, Dan, like if you're going to work really hard in the next year, if you do these things every day, if you follow my lead, and I'm your manager, if you follow my lead and you listen to you're going to get a manager's role and you're going to get 35K as a salary. So what happens? So now you have a carrot, right? You're following that. So you become disciplined. You start following my advice. You start doing consistent hard work every single day. Your efforts are noted. You start coaching others. Your purpose is all of a sudden you're increasing your purpose and your clarity because you know exactly where you're going. So that's discipline. If you think about like just how human beings work in general, let's use war as an example. At the fear of losing your nation, people get disciplined. I'm going to start, I'm going to get into the army. I'm going to do this. We're going to start working harder to manufacture weapons so that's the level of discipline that goes through fear or anxiety. Ideally, we avoid that route. Obviously, you don't want to make people scared of coming into work because their performance then dips at some point through burnout. You know what I'm saying? But the element of discipline is key. So having clear procedures, enforcing those procedures with everyone, and I mean everyone, so there's no exceptions, unless there's an exception list in the policy, and that needs to constantly evolve. So there's that element of discipline, and then you improve at the same time as the discipline goes up. So then you're training your leaders to make sure that they have the discipline themselves to hold themselves and their peers accountable, so their employees can look up and say, that it's happening everywhere. I am not just a victim here. This is just how